If you've been watching this channel for any length of time, there's a ton of stuff that we constantly report on that if you look back a couple of months ago, a year ago, or in this case, back in 2020, where these deals, especially with Japan, was being announced, we were telling you, we were going through all the expert analysis saying this trade deal with Japan doesn't make any sense. When you put in the numbers and you want to do like a compare about who gets a better deal, a Japanese business or a UK business, well, the Japanese businesses were far, far and away massively favored by this deal. So what happened? Why were these deals done so quickly and in this case so badly? Well, in the case of certainly the Japan, the Australian, and the New Zealand trade deal, it was all a massive attempt to try and join the Trans-Pacific Partnership. And even that, joining that, is not going to be a benefit to us. This new trading bloc is not going to unilaterally change its rules to suit a country that is halfway around the world. At least those countries are in the same geographical area. We're not. But these deals were done out of sheer desperation. And of course, the prime suspect in all these deals and to why they were so bad was Liz Truss. It seems to be unraveling and stuff coming out every day that, the trade deals, the negotiators were under orders from Truss. Get this deal done as quickly as possible. Give them what they want to make this deal done. Because we've said at the time back then, these trade deals are not done in a matter of months, as some of these deals were done. They can take years. Like the average trade deal to be done is about 7 to 8 years. And yet these were done in months. So that should have rang, that certainly with me, and I was telling you at the time, ring a lot of alarm bells. And now we're now starting to see the effects of these trade deals. We're starting to get the data, the cold, hard facts. And just as we said at the time, we were waiting on a lot of these studies and the info of what these deals would mean and the consequences of this deal would mean. And of course, we're now getting the data through, especially for Japan deal. And lo and behold, as we were telling you at the time, this deal was not good. It turns out the data's proving it. It is not a good deal. So, as always, before we go diving into this piece, please do remember to hit that like, share, and subscribe button. And of course, down below, there are links to my Patreon page and an annotation link called Buy Me Coffee, where you can, buy me coffee. And as always, thank you very much to all those people who do help and support the channel. And of course, down below, there is the YouTube thank you button as well. And of course, the Pony Club link as well, where you can join that and get sort of perks and whatnot as well. So, onwards with this today. So, this comes from The Guardian with the title of Brexit Blow. Exports to Japan slump after landmark free trade deal. The first major free trade agreement signed by Britain after Brexit has been branded a failure after new figures have shown that the exports have fallen since it came into force. Are we shocked? No, we're absolutely not shocked at all. But back to it. Liz Truss signed this, quote, historic deal with Japan as a trade secretary in October of 2020, describing it as a landmark moment for Britain. It was claimed that it would boost trade by billions of pounds and help the UK recover from the pandemic. However, figures collated by the Department for International Trade show that the exports to Japan fell from 12.3 billion to 11.9 billion in the year to June of 2022, and exports in goods fell by 4.9% to 6.1 billion, and services fell 2% from 5.8 billion. So, and this is something we've always got to sort of make clear, even though that is a lot of money to someone like you or I. But when we're talking big GDP, these are big, significant drops. Big drops. The decline is a setback for supporters of Brexit. who claimed that the global trade with non-EU countries would help compensate for any losses from leaving the single market. Of course, that's what we were saying. This would happen, but of course, no, it'll be fine. We'll be compensated. Don't worry. Everyone wants to trade with the UK. Turns out that wasn't true. Who knew? Brexiteers telling untruths. Oh, shock horror. One such deal with Australia was criticised earlier this month by the former Environmental Secretary George Eustice, who said it was, quote, not actually a very good deal for the UK. Nick Thomas-Summons, Labour's Shadow Secretary for International Trade, and probably the person who's going to have to solve all this mess in certainly a couple of years or so, said the falling trade within Japan is irrefutable evidence that ministers are not delivering for UK exporters. The Conservatives, but hey, the Conservatives have no trade policy worth of a name, and ministers are failing to stand up for UK interests in negotiations. This is making the huge economic damage they have caused even worse. The new figures follow evidence that Britain's economy is set to struggle compared to its international counterparts. And apart from Russia, it will be the weakest performer of the world's big economies next year. And according to the Organisation of Economic Cooperation and Development, it also comes with Rishi Sunak under pressure from inside Whitehall and amongst his own MPs to over his current Brexit plans, as he was forced to deny claims last week that he wants to pursue a softer Swiss-style Brexit that would see Britain forge a closer relationship with the EU. However, he is now facing calls from officials to drop plans that would automatically tear up EU-derived laws by the end of next year. The Observer has been told that the, quote, Brexit Freedoms Bill is putting such a burden on civil servants that even working through weekends has not left them enough time to examine all the implications of the plan. Of course, this is the EU Revocation and Reform Bill. This is why I've said it's just such an absolute disaster of a bill. If this seriously goes through, this could cause absolute sheer chaos on a dramatic scale. But back to it. Officials are having to comb through the current laws because of the sunset clause in the retained EU law bill, under which any law not reviewed or revoked by the end of 2023 will be removed. Mike Clancy, the General Secretary of the Prospect Union, said that the bill could, quote, leave the UK a more dangerous and less fair place. Prospect members in safety in critical industries are concerned that this bill could remove important safeguards in the name of cutting red tape, he said. It also puts huge pressure on departmental workloads. And it seems that the Prime Minister may be forced to plough on with this bill to try and appease the hardliners in his party. We must not end up in a situation where people's rights at work are used as a red meat to try and appease a small cabal of MPs. The performance of the Japan deal does heap even further pressure on the government, as claims that Brexit can secure a, quote, Brexit dividend. The Department for International Trade officials have said that in 2020, the UK-Japan Comprehensive Economic Partnership Agreement is offered a significant advantage beyond the previous EU agreement, but it didn't. It was basically the same agreement. How is it more advantageous? It was pretty much a copy and paste agreement. It claimed that this estimated boost in trade between the UK and Japan would be worth at least £15 billion. But in its first year since coming into force on the 1st of January of 2021, a total trade between the two countries was $23.7 billion, against $24.9 billion in 2020, the fall of about 5%. The most recent figures show a slight recovery in total trade between the two countries. Meanwhile, Michael Mioria and Jaguar, the senior research fellow in international trade at Sussex University, a school for policy research, and fellow of the UK Trade Policy Observatory, said that the government had, quote, oversold the UK-Japan trade agreement and that it did not offer significant economic advantages over the previous EU deal. She said that the early trade data did not appear encouraging. A competitive analysis of the UK Japan trade figures of 2020 and 2021 by her and her colleagues states, in all cases but one, Japanese exporters and importers of goods and services with the UK performed worse than the equivalent flows with the EU or the rest of the world. Myron Jager said that Japanese businesses had used the UK as a gateway to Europe since the 1980s. And this is what we said back when we were first covering this. Why is a Japan business going to send stuff to the UK now? Because that's what it was sold as. The whole reason that Nissan came here, encouraged by Margaret Thatcher, was because we were a gateway to Europe. That is no longer the case. That gateway is very firmly closed now. She said that research had shown that the firms were having difficulties in trying to negotiate all the UK-EU trade framework and were even considering expanding their business functions, including headquarters and productions in the EU. While the UK said that the deal with Japan offered, quote, bespoke benefits, a Japanese Ministry of Affairs document suggests that it largely rolled over previous EU agreements. Ministers are now facing mounting scrutiny over the free trade deals around the world, with the role of trade and goods deficit of at least 23.7 billion in July to September in 2022, and according to figures published by the National Office for Statistics. Economic experts now accept that Brexit will have an adverse impact on international trade as businesses struggle with the increased customs checks and bureaucracy involved with exporting to Europe. The Office for Budget Responsibility report published earlier this month assumes that the UK trading intensity will be 15% lower in the long run. It says the latest evidence suggests that Brexit has had a significant adverse impact on UK trade. It was reported last week that senior government figures were considering a, quote, Swiss-style relationship with the EU with fewer trading barriers. And Prime Minister Rishi Sunak said that the UK would not pursue any post-Brexit relationship that relies on alignment with EU laws. The Japanese embassy in London said that the deal, quote, provides stability for Japanese and business companies for continuing their business and trading activities with each other after Brexit. A Department for International Trade spokesman had this to say. Global trade has been significantly impacted by COVID-19, and while trade flows can fluctuate in the short term due to a variety of factors, our analysis shows that the UK and Japan CPAC could, again, probably a word that they should highlight, could increase trade by nearly 16 billion a year and increase UK wages by 800 million by 2025, compared to not having a deal. Well, we're already seeing from the official figures those numbers aren't going well, that we're having decreased trade because, again, why would a Japanese company who was sold on the idea of bringing companies, bringing production lines to the UK, exporting goods and services here, to be able to then ship them over to the EU, being, again, that gateway is no longer there. So it's good that these deals are coming under increased pressure. I'm really glad about that. And it's certainly something that we always said would happen because you cannot lie about these figures and numbers. And now we're starting to see, well, okay, that's the first year. Let's take a look at the numbers. Let's see what the numbers have to say. And of course, the numbers are bad. But this is exactly what we said would happen. Exactly what we predicted would happen. And yeah, this is a massive blow to all the Brexiteers who said that this would, we could compensate for loss of leaving the single market. Well, the Japan deal certainly isn't compensating. Neither is the Australian or the New Zealand trade deal. And there is still no sign that we are going to get that very much elusive yet hoped for trade deal that would make staying in the single market look completely ridiculous. Again, quote Daniel Hanan. Yeah, that isn't coming either anytime soon. So, yeah, just more and more evidence of just how bad Brexit really turned out to be. But as always, guys, like I say, thank you very much for watching. Please do remember to hit that like, share, and subscribe button. And of course, down below, there are links to my Patreon page and a notification link called Buy Me Coffee, where you can buy me coffee. And of course, we'll see you all next time.